Hey everyone, this is Friedel Huck or AJ Raven with an interview with comic book writer and artist Richard Fairgray. We talked about his latest queer inclusive book for mature readers titled Haunted Hill, why he decided to make it available for free on his website, richardfairgray.com, his thoughts on balancing his children book career with more mature content, queer representation in media, NFTs, and a lot more. Enjoy.
Uh, Insanely stressed and tired at all times. How about you?
I mean, I'm managing. Like, I go through your Twitter feed and you're like, I have drawn this many pages. I'm working on this. Now I'm working on that. And I'm like, where do you get the time? Where do you get the time?
I don't sleep very much. And I just like so my record for drawing is about 480 pages one year. And this year, if I just meet my contractual obligations, I have to do 958. So I'm freaking the fuck out right now. And just like I get up at 5 and I just start drawing, and then I stop usually at 11 o'clock at night and I don't do anything else. And like this is also the year when I'm going to do a lot more publicity stuff and a lot more convention appearances, and I'm hoping that I can do like a book tour at some point. And I'm looking at it being like, well, that's going to take time. Those are going to be entire days when I can't do any drawing at all. So I have to get further ahead somehow. I do pretty like detailed environments in my books, to save time. Um, and if you look at the like the homes of most of my characters, in the backgrounds they'll be like, oh, there's a bookshelf and there's, I don't know, some comic pages and some action figures from Richard's other comics on it, I guess, and like probably some art supplies, and there's a lot of lamps that are all on bendy arms so they can be angled for drawing, because I don't know what normal people have in their houses. Like, I can't even figure out just what ordinary people, not to say that I'm not an ordinary person, but like people who don't kill themselves to make comic books are doing. And it's probably unhealthy, and like I don't know, but what else is there, right? Like I say to people, like, what do you do with your time? Like say you work at like a 9 to 5 job, right? And you come home, what do you do? Because like people answer with, well, I watch TV. I'm like, yeah, but you can do that while you're drawing comic books. Or like I talk to my family. I'm like, okay, but then what do you do after 5 minutes? Or what do you do once you're fighting? Like, just be realistic and make comics like a grown-up.
So, coming to your latest work, Haunted
Mhm.
Hill, I've already read the first issue. Of course, I'll be reviewing it. And yeah, where did the idea come from?
Um, so for years now, every time someone mentions the movie House on Haunted Hill, I think,
Mm,
well, actually, it's about a haunted house on a regular hill. That's a very stupid title. And I started thinking about what would make a hill haunted, and obviously it would have to be filled with ghosts. And it got me thinking, like, well, what is the effect of, I love ghosts. I want to be one day. What would the effect be of thousands and thousands of ghosts all being underground? And I think it's that it
mm-hmm.
would make things kind of fucked up, but in a really such a minor way that it would just kind of like, there's so much of the weirdness of the ghosts being there would be absorbed by your life. And so I started kind of stewing on that for a while and thinking like, well, all my favorite ghosts are in Hollywood. Like, Hollywood's my favorite place in the world, but it's also my favorite place to go looking for ghosts, because anyone with unfinished business in Hollywood, it was that they didn't get enough attention, right? So these are ghosts who want to be seen. So they're always like the
Mm-hmm.
chillest, funnest ghosts. Like they're like, long story longer, but I did have a ghost save my life there one time, because he showed up at my door and was like, he used to show up in my doorway like on the hour, every hour. If I was awake late at night, he would stand in my door and stare at me. And he was just kind of like a
Uh,
weird gray figure. And then one night he shows up, it's not on the hour. And like I'm always talking to him. I'm like, hey buddy, I want to be your ghost friend. Like, let's chill. I'm not promising anything, but like if I can help with something minor, I will. But Then one night he shows up and it's like 20 after, and he looks at me and he goes, shh. And then he beckons for me to follow him. And I follow him through my house all the way to the very back. And we get into the back where there's this, at the time, the place I was living, there was a recording studio. And he just stands there and goes, shh, again. And then I hear all this yelling out the front of my house. Now, my bedroom at the time was like right in the very front of the house, quite close to the street. And I hear all this yelling, and then I hear a bunch of gunshots and some screaming, and then someone drives off. Now, here's the thing. If I had been in my room when that had started, when I'd heard yelling, I would have been like, oh, dip, there's a fight happening. I'm going to go watch that for fun. And I would have definitely been shot. And as a result of this fun ghost friend who I'd been kind to, I didn't. Anyway, that's unrelated. But so the way the idea came to me was that, like, this is the explanation I have for Hollywood. Is it's probably, like, we've all heard stories of, like, it's built on an Indian burial ground, like the old kind of shitty horror trope. But what if it's just built on 1,000 burial grounds of, like, there's just a lot of ghosts who are hanging around in Hollywood and making things a bit weird. And I think that's a really fun explanation. And I was really missing Hollywood when I started this because I hadn't been there for like 7 months because I'd been like trapped in Canada by COVID. And I had 2 days off. And so I was in between books. I was waiting for notes from an editor, and she said, I will have these for you by Friday. And I was like, well, I've got 2 whole days. What do I do? So I wrote this little 6-page story, and it's just the first 6 pages of what is now this huge series. But it was just meant to be a story about a woman, like, just struggling with something really small, like getting her cigarette lit. And the awkwardness of, like, talking to someone who you don't know, and just kind of like establishing that kind of energy, and like oversharing with a stranger and all of that. And it was really just meant to be that it ended at the point where she says, oh, I live on Haunted Hill. And then the notes didn't come through. So I did another 6 pages, and then they still didn't come through by the end of the weekend. So I made it a full issue. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm now busy on this. And I contacted the editor and said, you're going to have to wait because you were late. I'm going to go do this thing for a grip, and then we'll come back to it. And so I ended up doing these like 6 issues over the next, I think, month and a half. And it just kind of blew up into this like very, like, I'm trying to write it like a surrealist soap opera. So like it's all very human emotions. It's very character driven, but at the same time, it's really ridiculous background stuff, because those are all my favorite stories. You know, like the thing that made Blastosaurus not just a standard dinosaur who fought things was that he was mostly a sad middle-aged man shaped like a dinosaur who lived and worked in a laundromat. Like that's the thing that's the, and I don't want to say it's a hook because it's not, but like it's the thing that made it matter to me. Haunted Hill is just the name of the part of Hollywood that she lives in. It's based on the place I live, which is Whitley Heights. And it's this very small area that is like right at the bottom of the Hollywood Hills. So it's like still the dirty, grimy part of Hollywood that I love. Like we were still on the reg getting like a homeless dude breaking into our kitchen and shitting on the floor every night. But it's like the houses are suddenly worth $2 or $3 million, and you're just paying like cheap rent because they're also in terrible condition. And I thought like, well, let's just say that this part was a housing development that was started by a guy named Obadiah Haunted, who had made his money. And, you know, in those days, people got their surnames from their job. And his job is he'd been a vessel for demons and ghosts exorcised from wealthy British children. And so he'd moved to America and shown up as the most haunted man in America because his legs were full of ghosts, which is why he's also responsible for most of the major dance movements. And then he was buried there, and they've just been leaking out of his legs ever since. And that's why Hollywood's all fucked up. It's a very dumb conceit. But I think that's, you know, it's how do you make a hill haunted? Put a bunch of ghosts in a person and bury them. It's simple.
That's how, yeah.
it's you know, it's the old joke of like, oh, have you heard about the Eiffel Tower designed by Dr. Tower? Like, you know, just take the last name. Like, oh, this is Steve Volcano. I invented volcanoes. Like, you can't get away from how funny that joke will always be. And like, don't get me wrong, it's about real life. So of course there are ghosts in it, and of course there are aliens in it, and of course there is a trampoline park in it. But like, it's not about that. It's like the first 6 issues are about a 35-year-old woman trying to keep up with people in their 20s on a ride home, which should definitely only take 10 minutes. But because when you get in a car with people in their 20s, shit goes wrong and you end up in a lot of different places. The key difference between real world and my world is that in my world, Richard Karn is exactly as famous as Danny Trejo. And that is why Trejo's Donuts and Coffee from the real world has been turned into Karn's Donuts and Coffee and Al Borland themed donuts. It's all like it's a lot of this comes from like I love Hollywood so much. It really is just the best place. But when I describe it to people, they look at me like I'm describing some kind of nightmarish hellscape. Because I'm like, oh yeah, there was this dude who kept breaking in and shitting on our kitchen floor. And none of the people I lived with would believe me. They just kept saying it was the cat. And I'm like, cats don't shit that big though, guys. Or like, oh yeah, this is Andrew. He lives in a tent full of doll heads. I went and had donuts with him once to see if he'd agree not to stab me. And he said no. So I ran away. Like, but to me, these are just great fun stories. Oh yeah, there was this guy who used to scream a lot and reach in my window at night, but he dropped 2 knives. The upshot of that is I got 2 free knives. I did leave them at that house when I moved in case they'd been used for doing murders because I didn't want to have murder weapons, you know. Like it's all I don't know. I was back there a couple of months ago and I went into 7-Eleven at like 3 a.m. and I met a serial killer and I didn't realize I was like, this dude's just a creep. And I don't want to like, I've straight up lifted the story from my life and put it into the book, in the storyline I'm writing right now. But like, basically this dude was like, hey, can you buy me some really specific things? Cause I was buying a sandwich for this homeless woman who was out the front and he saw me like offer to buy her a sandwich. So he asked, can you get me something too? And what it was he wanted alcohol wipes and a torch lighter. And I was like, those are weird requests. So I bought him some cigarettes and I just dipped out. Right. And then like, I was like, there was something off about that guy. I'm hanging out with my new buddy, who has a building shaped like a boat. And then he jumps on the old Google and he looks it up and he's like, yeah. So it turns out like a bunch of homeless people have been murdered around here recently. Someone keeps covering their sleeping bodies in alcohol wipes and lighting them on fire. I'm like, oh. I switched SIM cards on my phone because I've got like a separate one for if I have to call the police ever because I don't want them having my location. And I called the police and I was like, look, I'm not going to give you any information except that maybe the dude you're looking for doing the murders would be on a security camera from 7-Eleven at this time wearing this. I'm like, what else can you do? You're just like, oh, I meet 1 serial killer a year according to statistics. So it's just weird when you know who it is. I don't know. Did you enjoy the first issue?
I did. I was like, oh, we have relationship trouble in this too. And the young ones do not want to listen to the old one. Not the old, basically, but as far as they're concerned, she's old.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I started this when I was 35. I'm now 36. And on my 36th birthday, my husband woke me up and said, hey, guess what? You're too old to be president now. I'm like, that's not how that works. But it was a very good joke and a great way to make me feel like I was shuffling toward the edge of a volcano, which my friend Steve invented. But it is like, yeah, she's 35 and that's not old. In realistic terms, that's not old, but holy shit, does it feel old. Like,
especially when you're surrounded with younger people.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So full disclosure, guess what I found out recently? Emojis are the pictures on the internet. It's not just slang for emotions. I thought that when people said emojis, like use emojis, I was like, do you mean like use your feelings? And I just missed it. Like I thought those were called emoticons, like we called them, like an adult would call them. You put the 2 dots and the line and the bracket, or you put the 2 brackets and the less than, greater than 2 bracket, like whatever symbol. That was a joke about pooping from one button to another from a movie that I can't remember the name of.
Also, it comes to Haunted Hill. It's very mature. The first issue, it's for mature readers, but you're still working on kids' books too.
Yeah, I'm doing
it. So how were you like, you know what? I need to tell this story as well.
Well, it's
because people do like keeping their brands separate.
Yeah, and I tried to really hard for a bit, but then it was like I did that we did an interview. You did an interview with me last year for Black Sand Beach, and it was a great interview. I feel like it went very well, right? And in it, we talked about like queer representation in the book and how like I had incorporated a non-binary character as like without that being the focus of the story, just to be like, this is representation. This is how you do these things. And we talked a lot about like other forms of queer representation, blah, 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 blah. And I came away from the interview, as I do from most interviews, because like I am a pile of human garbage who doesn't really have much of an ability to know when I'm like oversharing. But I came away from the interview being like, fuck. What if I said something that is like going to upset the parents of kids buying this book? Or this what if, and I was, I had Richard Fairgray as like my public facing kid friendly brand. And I had Richard Sucks as my adult brand where I was putting out like Ghost and my memoir Octopus and my book Boy and Sea, and then I was going to put Haunted Hill on there. And I was like, I can't do this, because if every single time I talk, I come away from it wondering, did I just blow up my entire spot? Like, and because I have a fairly juvenile sense of humor a lot of the time, like, when I give a talk to school kids, I will tell like a lot of stories about like when nose picking went wrong or like, bad like poop experiences. And it's toilet humor, but so it's not like inappropriate, but it's also gross. And the problem is there's always going to be someone who's bothered by me. And I just have to just be okay with that. And so with everything that's happened in the past year, as fast food press releases like to refer to it, the ongoing unpleasantness, I just lost interest in trying to like maintain these two separate worlds. And I think that the truth is like I could be a good clean boy doing all the good clean things and like doing the kids' books and doing the publicity in a big friendly way. And at some point someone's going to be like, hey, I was going to buy my kid your book, but like I also met you at that prison-themed sex club that time, and I did recognize you because your name's on your glasses and you have a tattoo of yourself on your arm. You're pretty memorable, And it's like you can't like, or I can't maintain two separate things like that. So I'm like, look, I'll keep doing kids' books. I love doing them. I tell very good stories for kids, and I have no interest at all in like. I'm never going to tell a kid to read Haunted Hill. I'm going to be like, hey, don't. You won't like it. It's not even because, like, to give a sense of the tone, page 4, my husband is rimming someone in a sling, right? But, like, a little cameo for him there. Like, yes, there's wildly inappropriate stuff for kids in this. And in my memoir, which a lot of people were like, hey, maybe just do your memoir under a fake name. I'm like, guys, it's a comic book, though. Like, my face is everywhere in it. And also my butt sometimes. Like, that is not a thing that I can change. My butt's very distinctive. As 2 cracks. It's like the cat from Transmet, but a butt. That's a dumb joke, Richard. Good work. Anyway, the point is, like that stuff was going to get out there at some point, and I don't know. I read a lot of stuff. Like, I think kids are really good at censoring what they read. Like, if an 8-year-old picks up, if an 8-year-old picks up a true crime novel, they're going to be like, this sucks. It's quite boring. I'm very bored by this adventure. And they're going to go back and find their Pokemon and all of their fun friends. Like, kids will do that on their own. I'm never going to be like, hey, kid, check out Haunted Hill. That sucks. I remember I used to do this convention back in New Zealand, and there was a guy there who, oh man, this dude sucks. And he had a book, not kidding. The book was called Sally Fucks Horses. And he was selling it to kids. And he thought he was like the cleverest, most edgy dude in the world. And I was like, yeah, well, we don't have Hot Topic in this country, so I don't even know where you got those goggles from, my friend. But like, stop it. Just like chill. Dude, if you really need to create a book called Sally Fucks Horses, do it. I don't care. You don't need to like who are you trying to impress? Like at the point where you're trying to impress children by selling them weird shit,
Children.
you're a villain. You're just a villain. And I'm not a villain, but I am a person who will absolutely like I can make very good comics for adults and very good comics for kids. You know, my best horror story I've ever written is about it's a little psychological horror about a guy going to a party and having a great time, and then he goes to the bathroom, and when he's washing his hands, he sees in the toothbrush cup there's corn cob holders, and he just loses because like why are those there? And the thing is like that will forever be like a great horror. I'm very proud of that story. But no kid is going to read that and be like, "Oh yeah, I totally understand the complicated emotions going on in that dude's head." I'm like, "No, kids, here's a horse that walks on two legs with a big mouth in its stomach. Much scarier. Enjoy." I know my audience.
I was like telling you, yours at Haunted Hill for mature audiences. It has mature art in it, and also very queer.
Oh yeah,
a very queer book. Yeah, a very queer book.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm here for it. And also, you will be releasing this like for free for people to read?
Yeah. So it's first issue goes up January 20th on richardfairgray.com. Whole issue goes up that day. And then 6 pages a week every Wednesday forever. And I'm going to make that promise right now that I'll do this. Even after I die, I will keep posting 6 pages for that's insane. I worked out that to do that is going to be a lot, but I think I can keep it going for at least 2 years, and then I might have to take a break and do like a season 2. I'm also telling the comic in real time, so like I just finished art on issue 11, and it's only been like 24 hours. Like I'm not super interested in seeing like, hey, this character learned a lesson in this one issue and now she's a different person in the next issue. I'm interested in seeing her slowly be like put through things, you know, and slowly experience this. So like first 6 issues, just that 10-minute ride home. It does take a couple of hours, but like what should be a 10-minute drive. And then next 3 issues are the next morning, and it's a little story about her trying to reconnect with a friend from childhood because she's been away from Hollywood for 20 something years, and she hasn't spoken to this guy since then. And then I was gonna jump ahead a couple of days because I have some things I want to get to, and then I was like, nah, you know what? I can actually do a much better story if it's just her on the way home from that. Like Eva's whole thing is that like she can bring some complications to a situation. So like anything which would take you or I 5 minutes to do, conflict will arise. You know, it's Curb Your Enthusiasm for dirtbag queers. There we go. I finally found it. I finally found like my tagline for it.
Your tagline, sold. Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Also, are you putting it up for free? Why? Yeah. Why go the free route? Like,
why not? I like free stuff.
Yeah.
Free stuff is cool.
I mean, but still, like six pages a week. That's a lot of work for free.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't want to brag. Like, these are not glasses. These are 2 monocles taped together. I'm a billionaire. No, I'm kidding. I'm very poor. But I found this code. When I used to run Square Planet back in New Zealand, there was like for a long time we were only selling at conventions and through bookstores, and then we put our stuff up on Comixology. And then I was like, well, having stuff up in Comixology is doing nothing for like the actual market of people going to conventions. But if I put this I was doing a daily web comic at the time, and I started noticing that people were really like, they'd come to conventions, that would sell out immediately because everyone knew about it already. And even if they'd read it all online, they wanted a book. And so suddenly I was getting like far higher sales. And so I started throwing everything on the internet for free. And it worked. I don't think there's anyone out. Like, I mean, digital comic sales are what, like a 10th of real comic sales out in the real world?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think anyone. There's this idea that like, oh, if you give it away for free, then all these people, you lose the amount of money of every single person who reads it for free. You don't. That's a lie, and it's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, anyone who is going to buy it is going to buy it anyway, and you're going to get a bunch more people who it's going to be their favorite book. Like, and I'm not saying this will be everyone's favorite book. Like, it's a specific book, but like, every book is someone's favorite, and whoever this is the favorite of, they're gonna, the more people who see it because it's up there for free, the more people who are going to come and see me at a convention and be like, I would like to own a physical copy of this. I would like to be able to tell my friend about this without having to pull out a phone or like send them a link. I would like to be able to grab this off my bookshelf. Like, I'll do a print volume is what I'm saying, I guess. And I don't know, it might all fall apart, but I work really fast. I can draw 3 or 4 pages a day on this one if I'm, on Ritalin. And by the way, if anyone has a hookup, hit me up. But I'm gonna die soon. I'm so tired. But people are gonna get into this book, and I can get it made. And if I do a 200-page comic for a real grown-up publisher who wants to put out a book with all the proper bells and whistles, they're going to pay me enough to live for the amount of time that it should take to make that book. I made Black Sand Beach book 1 in 87 days. It's 192 pages, full color, 87 days. And sure, I went a little bit mad. I do have some chemical burns on my body that I will have to explain to all future lovers from some adult premium body wipes that I bought in bulk from a very unreputable because I couldn't leave my office, so I had to shower somehow. So I was just give the old wipe down. Oh no, that is stinging a bunch. Anyway, that was an overshare. So now anyone who sees this and does become an intimate partner of mine will be pre-warned. Hi, Mom. I hope you're listening. It's like I don't. If you gave me $1 million right now, it wouldn't change my life. If you, and that's not because I have so much money. Again, found this coat. It's because like I don't want anything different. Like I'm very lucky. I have a roof over my head, and I have enough food, and I don't do anything except make comics. So it's probably going to be okay. I drink very cheap whiskey. I drink very cheap wine. Like I don't smoke. I'm cool enough that people offer me drugs sometimes. There is no cooler feeling, is there, than like if you're out on the street waiting for an Uber or whatever, and someone offers to sell you drugs. I'm never going to say yes to that because I don't know this person, and you should always trust your dealer. But there is no better feeling than, that guy thought I was cool enough to do drugs. Man, this is like I was in New York a few years ago, and I had just I was not feeling particularly cool because I'd gone to like meet someone from a grinder who was like nearby, and then they had like fully not showed up. And I think what had happened was they'd been inside their house and seen me out the window and been like, I don't want to put my dick in that. And so they had just like logged right off. And then I had a conversation with these 2 women from Perth. By the way, keep in mind, this is 1 a.m. on a Wednesday. And I had this conversation with these 2 women from Perth who, when I overheard their Australian accents, all about KFC and how good it is where they're from. And I was feeling like pretty bad about myself. And then I was waiting for a car, and a dude comes up. He's like, "Hey, you want to buy some cocaine?" I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, no, I don't, sir, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't look like a narc. I don't look like I'm, don't look like I've read 77 Ways to Say No to Weed and Still Be Cool from the back of that ABC comic from the early 2000s. I've read that so many times. A couple of years ago, I'm not very good at Twitter. Like, I'm very funny on Twitter, but my jokes are not relevant a lot of the time. Like, I'm like, oh man, I got a real good zinger about Lance Armstrong and his positive drug test. Good one, Richard. Way to be topical. But I posted what I thought was a perfectly crafted joke. And this was when Blastosaurus was first coming out through, not first coming out, but when it was coming out through Golden Apple in the US, before all that went south. And I get this frantic phone call demanding that I take this tweet down because, like, they're so worried that parents will see it and, like, or kids will read it because they're, like, on Twitter looking for me. I'm like, kids are not on Twitter. Like, they're on TikTok or probably Snapchat at that time. Like, they're not on Twitter. Leave me alone. Twitter is for my grumpy old posts about dumb things. By the way, the joke, which I did take down, I acquiesced, I took it down. The joke was very, very good. It was Harvey Weinstein had announced that he was going to make a documentary telling his side of the story. And I tweeted, I hear Harvey Weinstein is trying to get a film made to tell his side of the story. I sure hope he doesn't have to fuck himself to get it greenlit. That is a perfect joke. That is a perfectly crafted joke. And I had to take it down because it said the word fuck in it. Like, you know what else says the word fuck? Me, all the goddamn time.
So when's Black Sand Beach 3 coming out?
In theory, it's coming out in May. I approved all the final files for it to be sent off to the printer last week. Full disclosure, I did finish drawing it January 5th, 2021, but all the stuff on the other end had to happen, and so that was approved and sent off. And I got told that it was coming out in May, like officially May, but there's a paper shortage. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, no one said anything to me. Maybe we're fine. Maybe we already, like, maybe my publisher already, like, bought a bunch of paper in bulk or something. I don't know how it all works. But yeah, as far as I know, May, and then Cardboardia 2 is August, I think. And then I got a book called Ghost coming out in March or April, which is about a ghost. So there's that. And then I've got a graphic novel standalone thing called Shed, which is about an elderly lesbian sea monster. And that comes out, I want to say July, and that's going to be done through Kickstarter through a company called, a publisher called Blue Fox Comics out of Scotland.
With certain comic book writers going towards Substack. Any thoughts about that? Subscription-based comic books?
Yeah, I like Substack. There was a lot of really shitty transphobic stuff going on there, and I'm rusty on the details because it was a while back. But all I remember is Substack were not like good about it, and so it was a pretty hard no for me on that one. Yeah, you get one go around, and you can be a good person or you can't. And again, like, yes, I'm sure there's a pile of money to be made for me out there, but like, I'm never gonna feel good about it's the same reason of once you start looking into who the major shareholders at Patreon are, you go, oh, gross. I don't know if I want to be helping them. I had a and I know this is all like tiny. My impact on that is so minor, but like, I'm starting to do conventions again. We're starting to, and I have a lot of picture books that I've written, and so they're with a company who have kind of moved out of the picture book market, and things ended badly. Basically, I did a did a very feminist picture book, basically, and they kind of buried it a bit. And like nothing's ever been explicitly said, but like I think it sucked, and I think a big part of it was that. And so I haven't kind of done anything with the picture book scene kind of since then. And I thought, well, maybe I should buy like a couple of 100 copies of each of my books from them. So I've got 6 picture books with this company. And then I went to their website to like figure out how to do that, because I don't know. And I saw the books they're publishing now, and it's like, oh, cool. Amazon ended their contract with Woody Allen, but my old publisher like jumped right in there. My old publisher is also doing books with titles like The Truth About Anthony Fauci. Like, fuck off. Just fuck off. Like, he's the sexiest man alive. And he really is. You know, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy my books from them. Like, I just won't. I'm not going to, like, the amount of money they're getting from me and the amount of profit that I can make from it is wildly different. But, like, I'm not willing to let a single cent of my money go to that company. And I will aggressively encourage people to never buy any of my children's books from that company. Like, don't. Like, buy Sweet Penny and the Lion. That's my feminist one. I have 500 copies of that in my office. I will sell you one. I'll draw a picture in it. I'll sell it to you cheaper than Amazon. Don't buy it from them. Don't give them a cent. Do not buy, if you're going to buy Gorillas in Our Midst, or My Grandpa's a Dinosaur, or That's Not the Monster We Ordered, you can get all of those through Scholastic and Penguin through the Australasian print side of things. And you can jump on bookdepository.com or .co.uk or whatever it is, and you find the New Zealand editions. Get those. No money goes to shitty other publisher whose name I will not even drop, because they're saying bad shit about my boyfriend Anthony Fauci. He's not really my boyfriend, just in my dreams. I haven't actually figured out him for kissing. It's not really for kissing, but you know, sometimes.
Well, yeah. So Substack is a no. To each their own, because
maybe that'll all change. Maybe Substack will be like, "Yo, we're gonna boot off all the shitty anti-trans stuff that's on here," and I'll be like, "Cool."
A whole lot of queer writers ended up taking profitable Substack deals.
Yeah, no, I know, and again, like, I could be really out of date on this. Like, I'm not trying to start a boycott against Substack because I might just not be up to date. But like, I'm often out of date. I'm 36 years old. I'm basically dead. Of course I don't know about the internet. I just learned about redirects. Like, I just learned that I could own more than one. Like, so here, full disclosure, I used to own richardfairgray.com and blastosaurus.com. And what I did was I made 2 separate websites that were identical because I didn't know that you could just redirect from one to the other.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at internet. By the way, since I discovered redirects, holy shit, that is what everyone is getting for their birthdays now. I am just buying up them $1 domains like mouthandbuttstuff.org and just redirecting it to people's websites. Being like, hey, check out this website. They find their own website. They're delighted. Now their business card can be way better.
Also, talking about your website, even though Haunted Hill is free, it will be free. You also ended up putting a whole lot of stuff on your website for free.
Oh, yeah, there's about 2,000 pages of free stuff up there.
So
you got all of the American edition of Blastosaurus. You've got all of the New Zealand edition of the main Blastosaurus series and the black and white noir series, Blastosaurus No Added Color. You've got all of my graphic novel Anoraks and Acolytes. You've got my comic strip about myself, Richard Fairgray comic book character. You got a bunch of short horror stories. All of Ghost is on there, although I did just do an 11th Ghost story, so there'd be something exclusive for the new book that's coming out. But that is the comic that I started when I was 7 about a ghost who struggles with invisibility and loneliness, and is probably the funniest thing I'll ever do. And what else? I mean, there's like 12 different series on there. Just thousands of pages of free comics. And like, by the way, I would love to make a pile of money from those. Like, you know, as I say, I do, you know, I don't care that much about money. My life wouldn't change. That is a lie. I would buy myself a real cool slide. I'd have like a real big slide in my backyard. That's what I would do if I had $1 million.
$1 million slide. Make a YouTube video about it.
Hey, do you remember Richard? Yeah, he died. What happened? He tried to climb the ladder to his $1 million slide. Did he fall off it? No. He's 36 years old. He can't climb a ladder that high.
He's already dead. He's 36 years old.
Are you reading his comic Haunted Hill? It's still coming out. This all happened 9 years ago. What's going on?
Are you watching anything, or are you spending? But yeah, you are spending a whole lot of time drawing comics. But are you watching and drawing comics at the same time?
I have the TV on in the background all the time. I have just got my husband hooked on Dawson's Creek, which is a terrible show. Holy God, that show is bad. But I'm thoroughly enjoying the rewatch on that one. Feeling all nostalgic. I did watch. I watched the new Cobra Kai. I love that show. I don't fully understand why Kreese and Silver never kiss. Because they touch each other's faces so much, and I want them to kiss. And I don't know why they don't. And that feels very unfair to me. Anyway, so if you check out my AO3 account, you can find some great stories there. You would not believe who the Omega is. I'm not like super duper engaged. I have this thing where I will, when I have a meal, I take 10 minutes off from drawing, and I will sit and watch something for 10 minutes at a time. So I watch every single TV show for the first time in like tiny little chunks. I just finished Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That show was fine. Oh, actually, I wanted to talk to you about this. I watched Q-Force, which I hadn't heard of until you tweeted about it.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Like, okay, I have a real soft spot for anything that is set in Hollywood. Like, anything. Or even anywhere in LA. Like, I watched Cobra Kai because it's set in the Valley. I've never seen Karate Kid. I saw one segment of the Karate Kid cartoon series, and in it, that'd been like Wayne Zelinsky down to all small, and they were trying to fly a paper airplane from one building to another, and then it went to commercial. I was like, I'm a peace out on this one, actually. But I watched it because it's set in LA. I can just be like, oh yeah, I've been there. I don't like the Valley, but I've been there. And Q-Force, I was like, oh, all these cool Hollywood spots. Oh look, there's there's a point where they drive past my office. That's exciting. But man, this is a big part of the motivation for Haunted Hill. Like, there's a lot of really good queer representation out there now. There's a lot of bad queer representation. There's a lot of, there's good and bad in every form of representation and every form of media. The thing that bothered me most, and like we can go deep in all the problems with Q-Force, if you want to, but like the thing that bothered me most was that like I was watching a show exclusively about queers who live in my town, and I didn't see me anywhere. Like there were, I'm a garbage queer. I'm a dirtbag queer. Like I am not the person who's going to be waving a pride flag and being endorsed by an airline. I am not the person who's going to be working out and being family friendly. Like I used to love I remember, oh my God, this was like the best day of my life. I was at the Pride Parade in New Zealand, and the theme of Pride Week, because that was all we got there, was for that year was bears. And it was because Urge Bar had just been like voted and awarded as the best bear bar in the world. Now, this is the kind of bar where you had to wear rain boots to go in. Like that floor was sloppy. Okay. And I loved this because the whole parade was just like, there's a bunch of just like, hey, what's your beauty standard? I don't know, drinking a lot of beer and eating steak, I guess. Being hairy and a bit greasy. Yes, thank you. Thank you. That is a look I can aspire to. And it like was like, oh yeah, it felt good. It was dirty. It was, and I think like the Pride movement is a protest movement. It is not a family friendly movement for corporate sponsorship. It should not have police there. It should not have anything of the sort there. But I had like the greatest night of my life because I then went to the Pride Parade, went to Urge, and I think from the minute that I walked in, my feet didn't touch the floor again because I literally got picked up and passed from person to person as like bottles of poppers were put under my nose and I was handed free drinks. I was like, thank God, I'm finally the ideal man. And I felt very good. And I stumbled home later. But something happened since then where now bears became like the one gay thing that straights know about, and they became really cuddly and friendly, and now it's like really cute. And now bears are plaid shirt wearing owners of dark colored jeans that are not faded or specifically shaped around the crotch, and there's no sense that they're gonna like be gross. And I want them to be gross. I want to live in a world where it's like, yeah, this isn't for you. So like
that
queer
I mean, I understand because Q-Force that was a big issue for Q-Force. Like, it is a show about queers, but it was for a straight audience.
Exactly.
In my opinion, it wasn't for the queer audience. And I was like, okay, so you're just using queer characters as jokes, as props to make straight people laugh? Like,
and I think there was and I can't really speak to this with great expertise, but I feel like the lesbian representation was better, not good, but better. Because at least the jokes that they were making were like specific enough that lesbians could say, aha, yes, this is the coded language for our culture that we understand. Aha, yes, you have referenced a thing that only we know about. That's what it is. It's about like we have these fun secret things. We want to have, like, the gay stuff was like, hey, you know what's real funny? That dicks and butts go together. Now, look, granted, dicks and butts are both very funny, and the combination of them is hilarious. But you've got to write better than that. You have to do more than just the two obvious funny things.
The show hasn't been renewed for a second season, and I'm like, you know what? I hope it stays that way.
Yep. It's just it's so clean cut. It's so, I don't know. I think if someone was like, oh, hey, Richard, you're gay, you're one of those. Can we show you the show Queer Force? And I'd be like, I'm sorry, I have to go to this prison themed sex club instead. Like they would shit themselves. And I don't, I'm not saying that. Like, here's the thing. I'm never gonna say to people they have to like the things I like. I'm never gonna try and, it's the worst thing in the world when someone says to you, you should watch this. No, God, no, I'm never going to. Like, tell me why you like something. Don't tell me why I should watch it. And if I get on board with it, there are going to be people who read Haunted Hill and they will say, Hollywood seems really fun. It's real grimy and skeezy. And like, they will show up and they'll be my friend because they will like the things that I like. There are going to be people who read it and they go, this seems like a fun comic, but it seems like a terrible place. I don't want to go there. And I'm like, cool, then don't. Like, I don't gain anything by bringing people into my world who don't want to be there. There's nothing worse than going to a party where no one's having a good time. And Q-Force was like, I think it would have, like there was a time 10 years ago, 20 years ago where we could have said like, this is the only gay show on the television. So like it has to represent everything. And now we're not in that space anymore. Like we have all kinds of queer representation in all kinds of places. No dirtbag garbage queers like me anywhere that I'm seeing, by the way, but like we have some stuff. Except the Q-Force, it's a whole force. It's like the Q is like, this is not a show about one type of gays. This is not a show about one type of bisexual or like I would be perfectly fine seeing a show that was like, hey, here's a show about twink. That's all it is. Because then I'd be like, oh, it's a show about twinks. I get it. This is a show that's like, hey guys, we've got one of every type here. Do you, Q-Force? Do you? Or do you have one of every fucking marketable type?
Yeah, family-friendly type. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, we're gonna do a bunch of sex, but like it will always be for comedy because our sex is hilarious. And again, as someone who has that sex, it is hilarious. It does involve both dicks and butts, but it doesn't need to be a joke for straight people. They have their own very funny sex.
Yeah, Q-Force was a mess, and I'm like, Netflix will at this point, they will greenlight anything. Do you want to get into making TV shows or something?
I don't know. I used to think I did, and then I don't know. I can never kind of decide. Like every time I get an offer of something that is not a comic book, I am immediately like, oh, but what if it was a comic book instead, though? Wouldn't that be way cooler? Like, oh, like, I remember I had a meeting a few years ago about Blastosaurus, and they're like, I'm not going to say who it was with, but they were like, we would love to put Blastosaurus on the air. And, obviously we really here, we like to focus on like the creator of the original material being heavily involved. And so this would be like, would really have your voice. So you would be on board in a major way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but then I wouldn't have time to make the book. Like I'd be too busy here overseeing this TV show. And I don't want to, that's not the, like, there are so many people out there who are like, I started doing comics because it's going to get me into movies and TV. I'm like, come on. That's like being like, I don't know, I became a basketball player so I could get over my fear of heights and get into skydiving. Like, just do the thing you want to do. It's like, stop using my medium. And I don't own comics. I do. No, stop using the medium that I have made a home in, that I want to do forever, as a stepping stone to something else. Because all you're doing is you're just coming in here to talk shit about my thing because you're like, hey guys, I've got the second best job.
And a whole lot of people do that. A whole lot of 2-3 issue comic books are basically TV show pitches. They aren't actual comic books.
Yeah. And I'm not.
And they do get picked up. And I guess that's why people do it. That's why people continue to do it. Because they do get picked up. Some of them, at least.
Yeah, enough of them get picked up. It's always kind of a really a telling thing when you're like, oh, a lot of your characters look like B-grade actors who you think you have a shot of casting. That's so interesting. What a cool. Oh, that's like. When you see a character, when you see an actor go from like mid-level to like kind of superstar level or on that track, they stop appearing in comic books. Like I got so happy when I stopped seeing Mackenzie Davis as comic book characters because like she's doing really well. She's one of my favorite actresses and she's doing really well because people are not thinking they can get her anymore.
Someday you might give us a better Q-Force show.
Here's what I would like. I would like Haunted Hill to be made into a TV show. I don't know how that'll never happen.
How are they going to do that? Yeah.
No, it will be an amazing animated show. Holy shit! Like I cannot wait for you to see the later stuff. Like, look, first, obviously you see there's these like weird psychedelic sequences with the full color and what have you. Issue 2, we get like. Where we start leaning more into that. I don't want to give away too much, but by issue 3, we are fully into aliens. By issue 6, there are some ghosts. Like I just started. I started issue 10. I don't want to give away too much. But there's just a casual scene where a dude fully just gets possessed. He's just walking down the street and a loose ghost who just got let out fully just flies right into him and he just walks up like a monster like this. It's never going to come back. I'm not going to do anything with that. I just like that it's there because that's such a part of like. Okay, look. So a few months ago, I was in Vancouver and I was out for a walk, and this woman was walking like in the opposite direction from me, and she was maybe like 10 feet over to my left, and she veered out of her way to punch me as hard as she could. And I was really shocked by this. Like what the fuck just happened? And I was kind of shaken for like a couple of hours. And like the person I was with, like we went to a bar and kind of sat and had like a little bit of a day drink about it. Like I really didn't know what to do because I was like, why did this woman punch me out of nowhere? And she was relatively well dressed on a Friday afternoon. You know, like it was like business lady just decided to punch me. And I was like, I felt very attacked by it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in Hollywood and a random person punches me, I'm like, well, it's Tuesday, isn't it? Like, hey, like that person just tried to spit in my mouth when I was waiting at the crosswalk. Or like someone just came and started screaming at me about like who knows what. It's just constant. Like I remember when I was doing Black Sand Beach 1, I was literally living in my office, and we're not allowed to do that. But at about 2 a.m., my office is on Sunset Boulevard, and at about 2 a.m., the cops kind of go through and they like kick all the homeless people off the street on Hollywood. And it's a bit, it sucks on so many levels. It sucks. The treatment of the homeless sucks. Like, holy shit, it sucks. If you have any money, just give it to homeless people. And if I hear a single argument from anyone saying like, oh, they'll just spend it on drugs, so who wouldn't? What else are they gonna fucking do with their life? Like, oh man, if that person hadn't spent that $1 you gave them on some crack, they probably would.
Their life would have been better. Yeah, like it's just $1.
But it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Hey, you have absolutely no hope of anything because the entire system is set against you. Get as high as you can. Oh my God. Like, if you don't want to do that, don't do that. If you do want to do that, wow, I understand so hard. Also, we are not in a position of any. I don't know why I'm on this rant, but I care about it a lot. Give all your money to homeless people anytime you can. You can make a genuine difference to their life by buying them a fucking sandwich. And so much of what appears as real, crazy, dangerous, scary stuff is malnutrition, fucking up their brains. Buy them a goddamn sandwich. It's really easy. You can change someone's entire week by buying them a sandwich. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so the cops, being shitty as cops are, would kind of sweep all the homeless people off of Hollywood, and they would head south. And I'm 2 blocks south. And if my light was on, people would try and get into my building, and there's a big steel gate at the bottom, and they'd be rattling at the gate and slamming things into it, and this kind of stuff. And this was just like part of the that was just like a part. It's a part of it. It's just the normal background noise of Hollywood, and so you don't notice it. But when these crazy bad things happen, like a random woman hit me one time, that would be nothing if I was somewhere where more things happened. And so you can definitely get into a conversation. I remember right at the beginning of the pandemic, there was like the lockdown had just started in LA, and all of the delivery services were just not requiring any signatures. Everything was being left on doorsteps, which was great. Did coincide, however, with all the gun stores being like, people are feeling unsafe, better start doing deliveries. And normally those require some signatures and other stuff to get a gun left at your house. But now they didn't. And so suddenly a lot more homeless people were armed. And that was like, and I was walking to my office and I tripped over something because I wasn't looking. And I looked down and I tripped over an AR-15. And this dude sticks his head out of his tent and he looks at me. He's like, oh, it's you. You're cool. I'm like, yeah. And I asked him how he got it. He just told me I found it on a porch. And it was just like, yeah, that's just, but this is the kind of thing that is going on all the time. So like for me to throw in, there's a homeless man actually based on that guy, who's a I don't want to say he's a friend of mine. He's a regular character in my life. And he talks about aliens to me all the time. He tells me all these stories of different times he's met aliens. And I'm sure I was like, yeah, that's either super duper true or some mental illness stuff going on, and I have very little power to help it. Here's a sandwich. But it's not unusual to hear about that. And my book, I get to say, fuck it. What if it's real? Let's have those aliens show up. Let's have these ghosts show up. And people can just see it happen and just kind of go, yeah, okay. And now on to my next thing. Like, yes, I did just see a man get completely possessed by a ghost and turn into an actual monster, but also I'm going to go get pizza. It's a magical, magical town.
Yeah, and I'm like looking forward to reading the next issues. I'm like, give it to me. Also, people can go to your website and subscribe to the newsletter, and
Yes.
for updates, right?
Yeah. So I'm doing the newsletter thing. I'm really hoping that I'll be good at that. It is just one extra thing to add to my list of things to do. So, man, I hope I remember to do it. But my plan is that I will email everyone on that subscriber list. Will get an email every Wednesday when the new 6 pages come out, and I'm probably just going to like throw the 6 pages right there into the newsletter. So they don't even have to go to my site. Maybe, I don't know. I have no advertising on my site. I'm not making any money by people going there. Who cares? Have free comics. Comics are cool. Come see me at a convention. Buy one. I'll draw a picture for you. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a little comic event, and there was a nice guy at the table next to me, and he was selling like rare and valuable comics and stuff. And he was like, everyone who came to his table was buying comics that were graded and slabbed, and they were paying a lot of money for things that they wanted to own the object, and they didn't want to read the comic because obviously they couldn't, and it was all about that value. And there were so many, and I kept seeing kids show up who were like, oh, I can't afford to buy this. I'm like, hey, you're like 14 years old. You shouldn't want that. You should you do not need a CGC Spider-Man. You need to read Spider-Man. You need to enjoy Spider-Man. Watch him jump around or whatever he does. Like, the whole thing just bummed me out so hard. And then I'm looking like, I hope that no comic I ever make increases in value. Like, I do not want to find out that some like, I don't know, college student, because I'm not going to say kid, a college student who wants to read Haunted Hill can't afford to buy issue 1. No, they get to read it and enjoy it, like, forever. I will sell every page of it for the amount that I think it's worth, which is, like, come to a convention and tell me how much money you want to pay for my pages of comics. I'll probably just sell it to you for that, or give it free with a book. I don't know. It bums me out so hard. Like, money is imaginary. Capitalism it sucks, and it's a system we have to survive. And having money doesn't make me happy. Other people not having money does make me sad. And people should have nice things that they want.
Free NFTs. Free NFTs, Richard.
I really like that, because then I'm not gaining anything, but we're still destroying the planet just a bit. Just stop it.
Free NFT is basically like a JPEG.
This JPEG is so glossy. This beautiful matte finish board monkey. Just stop it, guys. Here's what bums me out about it, okay? Look, we're all big nerds, okay? Yeah, as a kid, I wanted to own my own Batmobile. As an adult, I don't care. But as a kid, I did. Like, I was a fat, weird nerd. And I was excluded from a lot of things for being that. I was also gay and disabled. So, like, I just hit all the points. But, like, why do all of us fat, weird nerds grow up, and rather than say, hey, maybe everyone can hang out and have a fun time, why do we say, let's create something to make it exclusive just for us? Let's keep other people out. I was talking to someone who was like, they're like, oh yeah, in the future, NFTs will be everything, and you'll have to have them to get into a party. I'm like, No, I won't. You can show up and be like, I'm Richard fucking Fairgray. Let me in the goddamn door.
Reese Witherspoon ended up tweeting like 2-3 days ago that all of us should be planning for cryptocurrency and a virtual world because that's the future. And I'm like, you know what? People still like physical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They do. And that's not going to change. Because I remember when ebooks were first introduced, people were like, oh no, it's the death of the physical book copies and all of that stuff. Physical books are still around.
Do you remember when Amazon announced that everyone had to update their Kindle or their Kindle would just be bricked? Like it was a big security update and everyone had to do it. And it would be automatic. All you had to do was make sure your Kindle was turned on at some point during this 1 month period. And like 30% of Kindles got bricked because no one had their fucking Kindles turned on because people don't really use them. I don't know. People are talking at the moment like, oh no, Comixology is going to disappear and all our digital comics are going to disappear. I'm like, yeah, they didn't exist anyway. Stop it. Just buy books. Shut up. Oh no, I'm going to lose this imaginary thing I didn't have. Look, if you've paid for something once, then like, if you really need a glossy JPEG of that thing, just go steal it. Like, crime's fun. You'll feel like a badass. You'll look cool enough to buy cocaine.
But yeah, not a fan of NFTs. And I'm like, yeah, NFT. And people are like trying to excuse it because people bring up the fact that it's destroying the environment. And they're like, no, it's not. And other things are destroying the environment. And why aren't you going after those things? And I'm like, both.
We are, actually. Also, okay. Cars are destroying the environment, but we need them to get places. Or like, like I don't know, like plastic bags are destroying the environment, but we don't have a replacement for them. We use them for things. You don't use NFTs for anything. They're nothing things for nothing. They're dumb. Also, they're all ugly. Like, haven't seen a good one yet. Hey, I made a bunch of NFTs of like sexy ladies all making the same face. I can find sexy ladies all making the same face. .biz. Like, stop it. I'm really important because I own the original glossy JPEG of this fun thing. No. You have an imaginary dumb thing. Like, NFTs are the equivalent of having a boyfriend in Canada. No one believes you.
But still, some artists have made good money from it. People are like, it is beneficial. Certain artists don't get paid what their art is worth. So NFTs can help that. And I'm like, okay, I can see that. But then again, there are a whole lot of grifters out there. And people are, like, I'll just say the names, like Logan Paul, the Paul brothers, and a whole lot of other people. They are like giving NFTs a bad name, basically.
It's look, yeah. A lot of artists are not being paid what they're worth. The way to solve that, I don't know the way to solve that. Okay, I'll be honest. I do not have a solution for that. It's very complicated. But you don't make the situation better by like only making it good for yourself. Like, I'm gonna finally get my payday. Fuck everyone else. Hey, we're all in this together. It's an art community. Oh, what? I'm gonna get rich? Bye. Like, it's bounce a clock for me. No.
Yeah.
Also, I should say, it is mature, but there's no nudity in it. No nips, no dicks, nothing. So, basically, an all ages book. I mean, there is the rimming scene, but you don't see anything.
It's happening, but you don't see it.
I mean, I actually, there's maybe 20 people who've read the book so far. Because I've been working on this for about a year, and I've been very kind of cagey about it. And 4 different straight people had to ask me what was happening in that panel, and I had to explain rimming to them.
I mean, certain straight people do it too. So like,
I know.
Try it out.
I don't know. It's the I feel like I'm always kind of like I'm accidentally on the cutting edge of sex because I pretty exclusively, or 100% exclusively, only sleep with people over 60 because that's just really my type. And there's when you're in your 30s and you're sleeping with very old men, there's a real anonymous old men. There's a real pressure that they feel to be hip and young, and so they will absolutely know whatever the current trend is. You know, like when we were growing up, 69 was the edgiest thing you could talk about, so we all pretended like we were all doing 69 day and night. 69s are terrible. You're just getting and giving bad head. Like it's a useless exposition for idiots. But we all talked about it because it was edgy. And now rimming is the thing that everyone talks about because it's edgy. I'm sure it'll be fisting within a year. But like, I don't think anywhere near. Why are we talking about this? My God. Anyway, buy my picture books. See, this is the kind of thing. Like, it takes very little to get me to talk about topics such as these. I've also just caught sight of the fact in my webcam that I'm wearing a shirt that says pig on it. That is the colors of a Rush bottle. So I'm going to wrap myself up in the coat I found. I did the artwork for a poster advertising a fisting party this is about a decade ago. And I was posting about it on social media, and then my mother calls me and she says, "Hey, Richard, I saw your poster and I didn't know what that was. Anyway, so I just read the Wikipedia article about fisting. So I have some questions." So here I am, changing hearts and minds, educating the world.
One fist at a time.
Now if you do two, it's called a chariot race.
See, already better than Q-Force.
Like, it's so, like, the character who I related to the most was the straight guy. Because I was like, yeah, I hate them all too. I mean, you saw the press kit that I'm sending out. I'm including my Grindr username because I'm so proud of it. I'm Sequest DTF.
Richard Fairgray, ruining children. He's the gay agenda. That's the gay agenda that America is afraid of.
No, see, I'm only sleeping with elderly men. I'm watch out, kids. I'm here for your grandpa. Where's Pop Pop? Well, went to a book signing. Now he's in flavor country.
Charlie in the chocolate factory, but hooking up with the granddad.
Oh man, he went all Augustus Gloop on that thing. That movie, though, right? How would you feel? How would you feel if you were Mrs. Bucket, okay? And you're like, "Hey, yo, Charlie, I look after your 4 stinky grandparents. I'm a single mother with a kid who's like only interest is buying chocolate with what little spare money we have. My in-laws and my parents, who all have matching names, do sleep in a single bed together. It is Fart City under those blankets."
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's cool. You take your favorite grandpa with you to the chocolate factory. I'll stay home and do laundry for you, you asshole child. Like, hey, let me sing a whole song about how you should cheer up. And then, no, that's cool. You take him. You take bad grandpa who's been pretending to be crippled for all these years. Grandpa Joe's an asshole. Oh, Charlie, look, the love of going to a chocolate factory meant I could stop pretending that I couldn't walk. God.
He wanted that Willy Wonka. That Willy Wonka chocolate.
We're getting free stuff from this dude. Let's steal things. Why, Grandpa? Because I'm a bad person. I faked a disability.
He's a
under my flirt blanket.
He's a messy bitch here for the drama.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would still fuck him. Well,
I mean, probably those grandparents probably ended up doing something in bed. All 4 of them in the same bed.
In bed for long enough, like there's foot action going on. Like it wasn't a long bed; their bodies were definitely overlapping.
Yeah.
When I wrote my memoir, not to brag, but I think it's really good. Like, I think I did a real good job on that book. And then people were like, when my agent saw it, and she said, "Oh, well, we can't send this out to any publishers because you're a children's author." And I showed it to other people, and their immediate reaction was always, "Oh, well, you can't have this stuff out there." I'm like, well, so what am I doing this for? Like, if I wanted to be very, very rich, I would have become a professional basketball player, like a smart person. I did this because I wanted to make good comics, and I wanted to, like, I write comics because I find it a little bit hard to connect to people. You know, like, that was always kind of my way to explain myself, was by drawing pictures and telling stories. And as soon as I do a very, very, very real representation of myself and my life and my fear of turning into an octopus, and people are telling me, you can't show this to anyone, it will alienate people, then I'm doing it for nothing. And so I think that was like a real shift for me when I realized, like, that if the thing I was doing to connect with people was the thing that was going to stop me connecting to people, then I was doing it all wrong. Think about this. I'm a traditional comic artist. I use a pen and I use ink. So I leave ink stains everywhere I go. Much like an octopus would. Terrifying. Don't feel like I fit my clothes right. Always a little bit too big for a space. Much like an octopus would be. Smarter than humans. Much like an octopus.
Octopus would be. I mean, Ursula is a queer icon, so go for it.
See, okay, there you go. Okay, so I take back everything I've said. She is the only, like, Ursula is a dirtbag queer. That is,
and she owns it.
Yeah,
she loves it. Yeah,
that is what I want my queer representation to be. I will keep doing kids' books, but it's that exclusivity thing. Like, there are a couple of situations that came up where publishers sort of, they didn't threaten me, but they kind of made it known that, like, we control your income. And I was like, nah, you don't. Like, no. Like, there are 1,000 jobs that are easier than the one that I have, and you guys are not paying me crazy money. So no, like, you do not ever get to have the power to tell me who I am. And so I said to my manager, I was like, I need to build my career in a way that means that my job is being me. And, there are so many people out there who are like, hey, I've got this one big idea. And I'm like, I've got 1,000 big ideas. Big ideas are easy for me. And I write 1 million books. Like, I have 250 books now. Like, I was about to say 251, but that's not until March. The idea, the big idea is me. It's every idea I have. It's the compilation of all of it that is, now that's what I call Richard Volume 1.
I'm talking to you. Very fun. Like,
anytime
we could.
I've got 6 new pages coming out every week, and I've got 5 books coming out this year. I'll talk to you anytime you like. I never stop having adventures, so there's always something to talk about.
There's always something.